include somebody from the youth section, who knows? But we want to build the youth section, certainly. But I want to start my closing remarks briefly by looking at, and I don't usually look at it, it's called the Morning Star. And it says here that the Post Office, Prison Officers Association wished the Labour Representation Committee the best for its AGM. And then it says the Fire Brigades Union sends greetings to the Labour Representation Committee. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting, because I was actually going to refer to another newspaper that said something about the Labour Representation Committee. It's ironic, isn't it, that I read that one first, because this one is a paper that you might not have read, and I recommend it to you. It's called the Socialist Monthly. And it says that much has been written and said about the Labour Representation Committee. It says it's neither socialist, and the only ism for it is Labourism. It says that the movement which the Labour Representation Committee is manifested does not demand the expropriation of the capitalist class, and all that it desires is to limit the powers of that class. That was written by James Connolly in 1903 in The Socialist. I think it's appropriate. And on the manifesto, which you might find interesting in view of the contributions that you've heard at today's conference on usury, on trade union law, and all the other issues that we've debated, the things that were written at that time in this manifesto, written all those years ago, and how prophetic in my view they are today. It says the Socialist Labour Party differs from all other parties, and in that it appeals to the working class and seeks the working class's support. It says workers alone produce the wealth of society, and it is our aim that they alone should possess it. Our attack upon the present constitution is that both its political and economic aspects are due to the fact that the class that dominates the state, and in whose interest and advantage all our social institutions are directed, is a useless, obsolete and parasitical capitalist class. It could be echoing some of the words that have been made by the speeches that have been put from this rostrum today. It says that the Labour Representation Committee that they're referring to in today's Morning Star from some of the trade unions who want to continue with the Labour Party just ameliorating the problems in society. It says that we don't want state socialism. What we want is socialism. It says, for example, that the Labour Representation Committee is a social democratic organisation, and that its name is only one in phraseology. It's identical in principle and tactics to those organisations who are dominated by middle class or working men and women who are influenced by middle class habits. My God, they could have been talking about some of those in our society today who are leaders of our trade unions and leaders of those organisations which claim to be representatives of the working class. And then it ends by saying that our policy and our party, the Socialist Labour Party, was formed because socialism alone can only be fully emancipated by bringing about a socialist system of society. And it ends by saying socialism is the only hope for the workers. All else is an illusion. I think that nobody could put it better than they put it in 1903. They epitomise all the points that we have epitomised during our brief period of existence since we refounded the party in 1996. Our party wants to see a regeneration of political thought, the kind of stimulus that can and has been generated both in this country and abroad. We have not only seen Obama mania in the United States because they sought change to the obscenity of the last 8 years of the Bush administration, but it's because particularly the youth of our nation and their nation want to see a fundamental change. They're fed up with the outdated. They now fight the opposition with balloons and snowballs. They really take them on. When I listen to Brendan Barber, it makes me puke. Quite frankly, listening to him, I could be listening to the Director General of the CBI. When I witnessed the Trade Union Congress inviting the leaders of the Confederation of British Industry and the Institute of Directors to address the Trade Union Congress, I think the movement's gone absolutely bloody stark, staring mad. It's high time that people in this movement demonstrated against that sort of thing. I don't say that to people, and I don't just simply advise them. As someone said earlier, I lead from the front. When I was going to the Trade Union Congress, and even when I was a member of the Trade Union General Council for a number of years, I fought against any invitations to bodies representing the CBI, the Institute of Directors, and anybody from the ruling class. And I also opposed anybody like Jacques Delors from the European Union. When I left the Trade Union General Council, these invitations started to go out almost like confetti. But it didn't stop our delegation in the National Union of Mine Workers from walking out when these people came in to address a working class organisation. And I'll give a word of advice to any trade unionists here. If they have the audacity to invite someone from the ruling class, you demonstrate that you're not prepared to sit there and listen, walk out while they're speaking, have nothing whatsoever to do with them, and demonstrate that we want to fundamental change.